I'm going to hang up and reboot and try to get my video to work the next go around. I'll be back in a sec.
I see we have many more people. So a couple of people dropped. So it seemed like there are connection issues somewhere.
So how many registration we had, Joey? Like it's around 50?
51. But that includes myself and Kate, so 49.
Okay.
So welcome everyone. Give us a quick minute. We're having some connection issues. So need a second to restart PowerPoint. Okay. In the meantime, I'll let everyone from the waiting room join. Seems like the slides work again. So I'm going to mute myself then. I'm going to present the slides. I do think I lose overview of the waiting room. So there's more people. Please let them in, including Kate, because Kate is also rebooting. Now we can get started.
Okay.
I'm also recording this because I know that given the time difference, even US time differences, this is probably not the most convenient time for everyone. So we can share the video tomorrow, Friday time difference. Because for me, it's close to midnight. Cool. Share. Present. Let me run to not the most elegant way. Sorry. But I need to get back to the slide and the agenda. Okay. I'm going to mute myself. Ready when you are.
Okay. Thank you. Just a housekeeping, Joey, let us know like when you want to initiate the breakout sessions and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, no problem. The breakout sessions, I can auto assign everyone. That's absolutely fine. But you can take it from here. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining the first webinar series thus for North America. In today's session, like we're gonna basically brainstorm, learn about toolchain automation, declarative pipelines with the shift left approach with respect to security and quality gates on the no-code pipelines. And the third one is the DevOps observability with unified insights and critical KPIs, like the key KPIs that is required that one need to measure in terms of the DevOps ecosystem and how it's going to help on the faster troubleshooting with contextual logs. This is on the agenda, and we would like to keep it like more of discussion oriented rather just going through the slides and myself and Kumar talking about the tool chains and declarative pipeline. So we can have some conversation to see like what you guys are doing. If you have any questions specific to the use case that you're using today, how you can improve from what you're using today, we can do that as well. With that, okay. So let's talk about the toolchain automation, right? Toolchain automation is something that's picking up in the market in last 3-4 years, right? Though the DevOps has been like introduced in the last 10 years, but just like the cloud journey, now with more tools coming into the market with respect to multiple areas, right? Like be it build or security or quality or the configuration management, there's plethora of tools in the market today. And it's basically like becoming too complex for developers to pick and choose the right tools. And most often, like what's happening is in the market is that tools are chosen by the executives, not knowing the application, the length and breadth of it. So a lot of application team run into the challenges because there's so many limitations based on like different application stacks that developers are building. And I'm sure like you all will agree to it. I don't know. These are the latest and greatest tools that like we think 80% of the market is using today. What do you guys think? Is this resonating with the tools that like you are using in the DevOps ecosystem at this point of time, or you're using more tools or like the new tools as of today?
Looks like a good comprehensive list. There's certainly more than this, but you're right.
Yes. Yes. That's like hundreds of tools in the market, like 80% of the market, they're just going with these tools, right? That's what we went with. So on the tools that you look at here, right? Not every tool is going to solve all the problems that we have in the market. And how do you empower the developers in terms of allowing them to choose the right tools, allowing them to set the right governance with respect to the tools they choose, right? That's another challenge that everybody runs into when it comes to the toolchain automation. So as part of this tool chain, right? Like, or if you have any tools, like what are the current challenges that you're facing today? Do you want to talk about it? Like I do have a lot of challenges on the tools that we have in the sense, like some tools are really good for Java applications. Some tools are really good for .NET, but there is not one tool that is available in the market that's going to fit like 100% of the technology that we have in the market. So what do you think is a major challenge when it comes to the tool chain automation? Somebody want to talk about it based on your experience? Okay.
The toolchain automation is very different from different companies and maturity levels. And I think most companies nowadays, like they pick the tools and pick the cloud vendors and try to use maybe cobble it together. It's very hard for them to pick one tool and stick to all of that, as you pointed out. One of the example I'll give it to you, like in my previous working, and we had about 6 people working on this DevOps overall journey. And each time I have a lead change or somebody leaves, and somebody wants Puppet, somebody wants Chef, somebody wants Randex, somebody wants like Jenkins, somebody wants TeamCity. It's like it becomes a choice of their tool as opposed to like focusing on the value that you want to create to the business. And toolchain automation is means a mechanism to achieve the value. Sometimes, like because people are so hung up on the preference of the tool and choice of the tool, and then not look at the big picture. And then if we do it, collect the dots between both of them, then picking the right tool for the right fit for a function, right? So we can do the purpose built from your tool, then you apply them to your point as well. Some workloads may not, like you cannot take one tool that is designed for .NET and make it used for Java, right? And vice versa. So I think it's a combination of balance between the teams, balance between the choice, along with adding the business value. I think the tools and automation will certainly help, but that mindset has to be there. Culture and mindset has to be. Anybody who want to chime in and provide your experiences?
And I would have said the same thing, because the challenge typically is every siloed department or team potentially has a preference of a tool, and from an enterprise strategy that sometimes doesn't work. So as you mentioned, everybody has their comfort and preferences on tool sets.
Yeah, I think it's tying the overall preference and comfort with business value is important. I think often people ignore that, and then they end up creating this bunch of tools in the company, and nobody knows what is being reused in the first place. So that's another thing we observed, and that it costs money, it costs resources, and also more importantly, business opportunities.
So Jay, if you can move to the next slide. Yeah. So once you get into the toolchain automation, right? Like how do you want to like integrate all the tools that you have built in for your DevOps ecosystem? There's a lot of challenges, right? If you have 20 different tools, and it takes about at least 3 months on an average, which we basically took a survey across like multiple CEOs, CTOs, and also like the different enterprises, like more than 200 enterprises. It takes 3+ months to set up this, bring all these tools together. And then 40% of the time, they are losing like in terms of managing these tools, right? Like with respect to the lifecycle management, the patching, and then the stability of it, the auto scaling aspect of it. And each of these tools can run in different services. One can run in AWS, another can run in Azure, some can run on the Blade or the VMware. So the challenge is going to be like more and more, like when you add a lot of tools, and especially when it comes to integration. And then the cost to fix the security and quality issues, like it's going to cost 6 to 15x, right? Like the reason why it goes from 6 to 15x is like the cost is going to exponentially go up if you don't fix it in the dev environment, or if it goes into the QA, it's another 500%. If it goes to the production, then it's going to be a significant amount of cost, and also the time, right? And also 3 to 4x time wasted on troubleshooting, right? How do you bring all these tools together in a contextualized and correlated manner and identify the issue? And if you do not have the lesser MTTR, right, with respect to mean time to identify, your MTTR is going to go up. Not just the toolchain automation, like choosing all the tools, but also like bringing all the tools together in a seamless fashion, and also having a pipeline that can orchestrate and talk to in such a way that like it can help the development teams and the DevOps teams to manage all these tools in much efficient manner without losing the time or the cost, and also avoiding the security issues. Kumar, do you want to chime in on this?
I think you covered it. I think that this is something that this is the industry benchmarks. I think more and more people are talking about like secure software supply chain is one of the concept that is coming into the play. It's there in the past, but now, given the recent events and challenges, people are focusing more on that. Because they're realizing that security is something that you can't skip that, and it has to be embedded into the overall planning. Security by design has to be included. And like you pointed out about managing the lifecycle, glue code, and troubleshooting issues, not having visibility, it puts them in that you cannot operate. If you don't measure, if you don't monitor, can't really fix the issues in the first place. Totally.
Yeah. Let me give a data point, right? There is a recent data point that came in from last year since pandemic. Let's take since pandemic to till date. There's been 600% increase in the security vulnerabilities that's being introduced into the every services that is in the internet, right? Just like the ransomware attack or the malwares. And there are around 18,000 vulnerabilities that's been identified by NIST. And out of 18,000, like 6,000 vulnerabilities are critical vulnerabilities. And out of this 18,000, there are another 4,000 vulnerabilities, which is like worse than critical vulnerabilities. And on an average, around 50 vulnerabilities are introduced on a day-to-day basis. So if you do not have the security and quality baked into the system as part of the DevOps, the cost of fixing it, and not just cost of fixing it, and also the technical debt, and the business going to take a huge impact when it comes to the ROI and also the speed to market. Because in the pandemic, this digital transformation started to go like basically went into rocket speed. But what happened with that is like a lot of teams started losing focus on the security aspect of it. With that, we all know what happened with the SolarWinds strike. And there was also a recent incident that happened in the mid of September with Travis CI. I'm not sure like if you're all aware of it. So Travis CI had a vulnerability CV. I don't remember the CV, the name exactly, but like that exposed the secrets tokens and also the open source libraries to the hackers. And they basically got into the system, and they had to basically go into the war room mode and try to fix it. By the time like they tried to fix it, like they were completely exposed. So having security and quality, it's going to be critical for any company now. It has to be a default at this point of time with the growing security vulnerabilities that we are seeing in the market. I don't know how many of you have like gone through the security issues, like once the code has gone into the production. Do you have any experiences? Do you want to talk about it? Okay, next slide. Okay, so summary of it, why tool chain automation is imperative, right? As we discussed, the growing list of tools and technologies, and there's going to be the growing list of integrations and maintenance aspect too, right? Like maintenance is not just the security aspect of it, but also the scalability aspect, the lifecycle management, the patching, and also the onboarding of users, managing those users' credentials, RBAC. So a lot of things come into the picture when it comes to the maintenance. So that might become an overhead if you do not have the right tool or the right plan when it comes to the toolchain automation. And then like, how do you bring all this toolchain automation together, right? Low code is a new way to code and ship. So when we say low code, so if you look at in the market today, like a lot of people, they use Jenkins, which is an open source tool, which is good, but like that involves a lot of scripting, the glue code that is required in terms of the Groovy script. Not everybody can write a Groovy script. So what's going to happen is the development team has to depend on the DevOps engineers to manage and modify and run those scripts. But if someone leaves from the DevOps organization, that's going to basically put a halt to the entire development team. So moving to the low code where they can basically pick and choose the tools and then task that particular stage on what it needs to be done in terms of security or quality or build or like the container scan or deployment. I think that should be the new way to code and ship. So like the developers can do it themselves without creating a lot of hassles to the DevOps team, and also leverage platform with the out-of-the-box integrations. If you continue to write a Groovy script, yes, to a certain extent, that is good, like up to 10 tools or 15 tools or even 20 tools for that matter. But in an enterprise, like where you have 15,000 developers, 20,000 developers, and like you have 30, 40 tools, and like you have different teams using different tools, and building an out-of-the-box integration with all the governance with respect to the change management, the compliance aspect of it, the audit aspect of it, that's going to be really challenge for any team to even, and then relieve developers to focus on code and security. Today, like a lot of developers, they focus only on the code aspect of it. When it comes to the security team, like we have seen, it's always been like outside the developer organization, right? I've seen security who doesn't understand the length and width of the application that's being built, and the application team doesn't understand the security, the scrutiny they are putting together, because security team cares about the application that's running in the production, but the application team cares about the business functionality. So how do we bring both of them together, and like how this tool chain and the low code can help bring them together? It's going to be critical piece of it when it comes to the tool chain automation. Kumar, you want to chime in on the tool chain, the last?
I said like not only tool chain and plus also like touched upon integration or orchestration, right? And the more tools that you have, and you have to keep up with the challenges also with it. Having a tool, multiple tools are good. The integration orchestration is something you have to keep in mind. And then when you let the people write the custom code, blue code, the code doesn't see like end of the light by the customers. You're focusing more on tinkering with it and managing, making it work, as opposed to enabling your developers and engineers to push the releases and faster. So that's the mindset we should have, people should have. And then having the toolchain automation in a standardized format or some kind of with choice and flexibility will help the companies to continue to have a diverse set of tools while embracing the standardization, a little bit of governance along with it. I think people should not. I think more and more I see more and more as the industry is evolving, as you touched upon, and low code is a way to go. It is the next. It's going to be plug and play, and people will have a choice. But it's interoperability with some kind of orchestration platform will be there in the market and continue to help them as well. I think that way you can protect the choice of flexibility, but also be able to move faster.
Yep. Imtiaz, I'm not trying to put you on spotlight, but you being the head of Agile, you probably like given a lot of training and helping teams to bring up to the speed, like on the latest and greatest when it comes to DevOps, right? Have you seen any challenges like with your team with respect to the growing list of tools, integrations, and then the low code platform?
Yeah, so I am not familiar with, I'm not a developer by design, so I don't know a lot of in depth of the tools in the low code development and low code platforms, but generally from a more horizontal perspective, there are certain challenges like everybody else has. As I mentioned, our major challenge at this point is the maturity and the growing of the standardization of the tools and the tool chains in place. So it can be like a building block for others to consume it from an architecture and toolchain perspective. So that's where we are at this point. So that's the only information I can add at this point for you.
Got it. Any questions on the toolchain automation or like any specific like challenges that you have seen? The rest of the folks in the call. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, the next one is the declarative pipelines, right? What do you mean by declarative pipelines? There is a term declarative pipeline in Jenkins as well, but that declarative pipeline requires glue code to be returned in terms of like some languages that needs to be put in. The declarative pipeline here that what we're talking about is where users can basically drag and drop the pipelines, where when I say pipeline, the stages within the pipeline, and configure in such a way that like they have all the bells and whistles that is required for any application stack. It includes the security, quality, and then having a threshold within the declarative pipeline. What is that governance aspect of it that they need to bring in? On top of it, like how do you integrate to the change management system? How do you integrate to the collaboration tools? So the feedback can be quick. So the team can focus on either the BDD or the TDD, and also like that will help the customers to move towards the value stream management, where they can build and deploy the code to production much faster with on-demand releases, with more agility, and also get insights on like how they are performing in terms of the DevOps ecosystem. Right? And if you look at the slide, you can see developers always like to code and they move fast, and they're not trained to deal with the security issues, and they always try to catch up with the fire that is coming in. And they go into the war mode, and what's going to happen is they're going to lose the focus on the business criticality functionality, and that's going to delay the speed to market aspect of it, and also that will impact the ROI. And with that, what's going to happen is the customers are going to get dissatisfied. It will lower the productivity because it's not like it's not been like thought like even before the code is planned to push to production. And also the traditional testing and security practices are manual and time consuming. Why do I say testing is manual and the security practices are manual? Reason is like the CISO team, they are not plugged into the Agile team mostly, right? Like they are a small team sitting outside the different development organization. And then the developers, once they push the build, they have the image or they have the WARG file, the artifact. They send it to the security team for review. They run it with a tool like outside the pipeline. The developers are like using it to push it to development. So when the feedback comes in, there's always like a delay in identifying like what is the exact issue, and the feedback will take a lot of time. And that's the developers are anxious to know like what's going to happen with that particular build, whether that's going to go into production or not. Meanwhile, the testing team has to wait, and the testing team may not have full automation. They have to run some manual testing. And so this is all going to take a lot of time in terms of fixing the bugs, and also like it's going to increase the cost as well, right? As I said, delayed feedback loops, slow releases, and then increase in cost of fixing the issues. The last one is the lack of observability. How do we get like the observability aspect of it from the pipeline, starting from the code commit or the story that is created till production? Like how do you want to correlate it? You need to have some accountability. You need to have some kind of correlation between each of the stages to understand like where are the bottlenecks, and where are you running the manual process, and where is the automation. So you'll be able to identify the areas that is working for you really well, and also identify the area that is not working for you. And using that feedback loops, We can always work with the business, the security, the QA folks, and also the technology team and also the architecture team. They all can be on the same page and they can try to do a better planning when it comes to the PI planning, right? When it comes to the agile methodology, and they'll be able to deliver the product much faster, safer, and also quality product to increase the customer satisfaction. And as I said, the security team's ratio to the developer is like 80:1 at this point of time with different domain expertise. And they are not talking, and always developer sees the security team as I don't want to use this term, but like they always like see them as an enemy because the security team comes back really hard at the developers, and developers don't understand the criticality of the security, and security team doesn't understand the complexity of the application. So how do we make the security team and the developer team in one single process that will help them to have one single pipeline? They all speak on the same language without depending on each other, help each other, and also make sure they push the code to production in a much faster way, and also a quality product to increase the ROI and also the speed to market. Does it resonate with everybody here?
Yes.
It does. Well, I think
Okay, next slide. So this is the shift left pipeline, right? At minimum, I think like this is required at this point of time with the growing security pain and the quality pain in the market, right? Like you need to make sure that like you are baking in the SAST, which is the static code analysis tool, and some sort of unit testing, and then have the functional testing, the container scan for your threat vulnerability management, and make sure your artifacts are like version controlled. And then like you have good governance with respect to the change management, right? Like not necessarily that everybody should have like enterprise version, like tools like ServiceNow. But if you have tools like Jira or like even any sort of tools that you want to use it, that needs to be used. So you'll be able to understand code that went into production, and also like you have better monitor in place. So if something goes wrong with the production deployment, you should be able to roll back to the previous version much faster without having a lot of downtime in the application. And I think the other key aspect is to have a pre-approved pipelines with the approval gate with all the phases, right? Like there is a governance team across all the organization, be it a startup or be it a mid-size or an enterprise. So the governance team should basically put a governance pipeline, like in terms of what are the minimum thing that is required when it comes to the shift left approach. And also like they can set up the thresholds, but at the same time, allow the developers to choose the tools they need for their application, right? How do they achieve both this aspect of it? The only way to do it is to go with the no code platform, where you can basically drag and drop different tools, but still like you have the governance when it comes to the security and quality as well. So we call it as a pre-approved pipeline or pre-signed pipeline. I think like that's going to be very imperative at this point of time with the digital transformation and also the cloud journey that like every company is taking towards, right? Any questions here or anything like I don't know, like how many of you are using like complete shift left approach at this point of time? Do you have any challenges in terms of including the security and quality to your pipeline or setting up the thresholds and managing the thresholds? Because I know I have received a lot of feedback saying that the developers often say, hey, introducing the security is not a problem, but we are afraid that we are going to miss the timelines because we never thought about the security when we designed the application, right? And they always go back and fix the security issue after the code is going into the production. So I don't know how many of you have seen these challenges or like running into these challenges at this point of time. Do you have any thoughts or words around this shift left pipeline?
I think for it depends. It varies between the maturity of the teams, right? Some teams consider security, even compliance, as part of their quality, and obviously doing shift left testing and all that stuff. But and some teams obviously are not there. So it all depends on the individual's team's maturity.
Yeah. Here again, it all depends on the application, right? For instance, there is an application that is built for last 3 years, and suddenly the security team is coming and saying, okay, now we are going shift left approach. There's like a knee-jerk reaction coming from the development team because last 3 years they have pushed the code without checking the security aspect of it. Now, the moment they plug in the security aspect of it, what's going to happen is they are afraid there's going to be like a bunch of technical debts that's going to come in. And that will put the business at risk and also the developers at risk in terms of fixing it, because the cost of fixing is going to go high. And also the productivity in terms of the new features, functionality the business wants to push, that's going to get delayed as well. So I think that's where like there are a lot of challenges I'm seeing like as a feedback. At some point in time, like they will have to introduce it. Maybe they can start small with what is the key security aspect of it they need to focus. and then like see, reduce the technical debts on the higher critical vulnerabilities, and then focus on the highs and then the low. And then once you are at a point like where your technical debts are reduced, then I think like the developer's life and the security people life will be much easier, not having the shift left pipeline.
Yeah. This is Rigo. One of the things that I would like to share in this way, when the decision it is to go to the chip lab, we started to experience a lot of challenges. Not that all the things that we required to do at the beginning, as you mentioned, we required some time to do the development for a specific application, right? During that development, all the things that's not realistic to able since you start to do the development. As soon as we start to define or take the decision to shift left, we need to put in more tools in the ecosystem that we need to able do automation. At the same time, to work with the engineering team to understand the reason, everything. That time, it is a hard time or hard momentum to the entire team has been involved because we need to continue to release new changes, future. The market didn't stop, and we need to follow the market. At the same time, we need to add more additional work activities for all the things involved. That's the biggest challenge that I had the experience in that way. But definitely, it is we need to take that decision at some point. We cannot avoid it. The security is the biggest area that all the market demands. Every single DevOps thing needs to do the shift left quickly as possible. But that's our biggest challenge for any team to do it.
At least start small, right? Like that should be the goal that every team should have. At least understand what are the security vulnerabilities that you're having as part of the program, the container that you're pushing. And like, currently the problem is like the business never cared about the security. They always thought it's the security team that's going to take care of it out of the blue, right? They think, okay, it's gone into production. The security team is going to have all the protection for my application to protect. So we have to start small and let's start measuring it and talk to the security team and bring security and business together and then bring them on the same page. Hey, like having this security, this is going to affect the business severely. It's not about we are stopping the new functionalities because they are also part of the same organization, right? They also, if the application runs, they're going to get the money and security is going to get paid. Security doesn't want basically to stop every application going to production. So that's where the alignment needs to come in. And that's a critical that I was talking about, having the security team bake into the application process, the application development process. So currently, if you look at the SAFe 5.0, the newer version, right? We have the architect in place, we have the product team in place, and also the development team in place as part of the initial grooming and the normal stages. The security always comes to later part. I think the security also needs to be part of the very, very initial discussion as well, along with the product team. So they can always keep the product team in check in terms of what are the security requirement that has to go in as well, along with the product requirements. And then having a shift-led pipeline, that's going to help because the architect is going to make sure the security issues or concerns are addressed as part of the design aspect as well.
Yeah, that's true. And another variable that's important to consider, it is the size of the things and the organization. As soon as if we are a small team to develop the application, when I say small, it's like a 50, 60, you can manage that one a little bit. But when we start to be 200, 300 people working an application, that's another challenge. But that's true. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ray.
What I've seen in the past is you don't go on enforcement mode. You want to go with more of a partnership mode. Work with them and educate them, nurture them, then go and and start putting some just visibility. Then based on the visibility, based on the policies that you have, then slowly work with them and tighten the belt. And that's the one way to have a partnership and extend the partnership. The DevSecOps and the developers and security working together. Again, that works in a way where you can build it in the culture. But if you don't have the culture, it's very hard to bring it in. But sometimes you have to go with somebody mentioned about maturity. Absolutely, you have to understand where you are on the journey of maturity level for you to shift the dials one way or other. So it's a journey. It's not like one time thing. You just say that, okay, I've introduced these stages, introduced approvals, I'm secure. You have to continue to manage it, make sure that your entire code is going to the same supply chain, software supply chain.
Okay. Can we go to the next slide if you don't have any questions? Yeah, the next one is the testing, right? So we spoke a lot about the security aspect of it because there's multiple security we have. And when it comes to the testing, this is another challenge where everybody is running into, because like it's always very difficult for anyone to basically decide what portion of the application needs to be automated and what portion of the application needs to be manually tested, right? And it varies from application to application with respect to growing different technology stacks that we have in the market, be it desktop applications or IoT based or like the mobile applications. At a minute, the company, the application that is getting started, uh, they need to have some sort of automation, right? Like be it a unit testing or be it like functional testing or be it the integration testing or the API testing, right? And the ad hoc testing are like usually driven by the individuals because like they try to do something like what they are aware of from the previous experience or something they learn and they try to adapt it for the application the team is working on. The next one is the opportunistic phase, like where there will be some automation and mostly it is like the reactive versus proactive. And there will be little bit of tool adoption and platform. And it's not like always they are 100% there with respect to the adoption, but there will be something. The third phase is the systematic, right? Where you will have specific automation use cases and it's all experts driven, like where you have some really experienced people like who has worked on like certain tool, like having a lot of experience and then try to adapt that particular automation based on the roadmap, the application roadmap. And also they will have their own roadmap with respect to testing in terms of what is the automation that they're going to bring in and like how it's going to help the application team to automate in terms of all the testing functionality use cases or be it integration testing or be it unit testing. The fourth one is the institutionalized. And this one requires like larger team and also it requires some sort of investment when it comes to it because the entire testing team will be working like an engineering team aspect, right? Like they'll be writing scripts, codes, and then like it's completely organization driven. So anything they build in terms of automation, they make it's completely like made available at the organization level. So other teams can come and consume it rather building independently for any specific application. And also the roadmap is scaled across the organization. That way, like application teams can test much faster and they can go into production like with a much better quality as well. The last one is the adaptive. This one we call it as the mature or 100% mature state, like where you have adaptive automation and use of AI, ML, self-learning, understand like what is the application pattern, what are the different testing patterns the team is building on in terms of the different application technology stack, and also self-health and auto optimization, right? Like in terms of test data creation. Okay, they want to run a specific application. What is the test data required? The AI ML should be able to predict the data that is required, and also it should be able to create the data that is required for the testing. And it should take care of its own testing capabilities, right? That's where like you call it as adaptive. I don't see like a lot of adaptive testing that is available in the market today, but definitely a lot of companies, they are in the systematic or between the institutionalized. And they are, I think like next 2-3 years, continuous testing is going to kick in and that will go as a like real engineering team and they will get into the adaptive mode in next 2-3 years with the growing AI and more tools coming around that as well. So
Yeah, I would agree. That would be my question too. I don't know if there's anybody out there that's in the adaptive currently, at least in that maturity model.
with a lot of AI and ML driven things, applications coming in, I think that's going to
See,
I know a couple of tools which is in the market today using AI, ML. I don't know if you have heard about the tool called Rigor. They are into it, but I don't have any feedback or anybody using it at this point of time, like experiencing it at this point of time. Okay. Any other thoughts on testing or anyone working on testing want to chime in here with respect to their experiences or where you are with your journey on the continuous testing?
Yeah, I think just to add to the more content, yes, I do agree with this evolution model, so to speak. So certainly we might be within the optimistic to institutionalized, probably not as much institutionalized at this point, probably another year or two would be kept to the maturity level, but still between the mid-range at this point.
Okay. Next, the summary around here is like around the security and quality, create the developer security champions, right? Like we need to create the security mindset within the developers as well. So like they understand the security aspect and they make sure that like when they code, they are coding, making sure that they are not creating any known security vulnerabilities. And then The next one is like bring security and quality mindset across the organization, including business. This is going to be the critical piece of it. Business, yeah, to some aspect, they think about quality, but they focus more on the functionality side of it. But they also need to have some security aspect as well. That's the reason I was telling previously that we need to have the security team part of the product team on the design and the architecture team as well. So the product team to build the requirements, having the right security in place. The next one is the empower development teams with out-of-the-box integration to thresholds and quick feedback loops. As I said, like having a drag and drop pipelines and like allowing the developers or the governance people to set up the thresholds for their applications without like writing any code. That will help the team to get the quick feedback loops, understand where they are and like who needs to resolve it. Having some integration to collaboration tools and ITSM tools can help them create the incidents automatically, change management records automatically, and also reduce the MTT by having the issues identified much faster. And then offer no code pipelines with the security, quality, and governance. And last but not the least, so you have the toolchain automation in place. You have the no code, low code pipeline, the shift left approach. But how are you going to measure it, right? These are for the developers we spoke about, but there is another aspect of it. The executives, other stakeholders needs to understand where they are in terms of their application journey, right? Like in terms of the DevOps, we need to give them the 360-degree view, not just on the security quality aspect of it, but also from the planning aspect, the pipeline, the software development, the security quality and operations, so they can understand like where the bottlenecks are, so they can start invest money on the right areas to make sure that they are building a winning team in terms of every application that is going into the production.
I have a question. I'm interested to learn a little bit more about if you can make it simplified between low code and no code scenarios here. You mentioned this. We want to move to offer no code pipeline. What does that really mean?
If you look in the market today, right, 80% of it, either they use the runners within the source code management, right? Like writing YAML codes or like writing the Groovy script within Jenkins. But how many people have that skill to write the scripts, right? I can write a script on the Jenkins pipeline, and I would have written a script for 3 years, managing like different applications. But like the moment I leave the organization, what's going to happen is someone needs to understand the script to manage it. If you are hiring a new person, you cannot expect that person to know the Jenkins or the respective tool that other person has built. They have to come and do it from the scratch, or they'll be struggling to manage whatever that is built by another person, or that person will come with their own perception in terms of the tools that he likes, and he'll start introducing the tool. What's going to happen is that's going to create a hassle among the development teams, right? Because they are either forced to do something which they are doing, or like they need to adapt to a new tool. Having a no code pipelines in the sense like you have a platform where like you can basically drag and drop the step, define the step in the sense, okay, you have a drop down saying, okay, I'm going to do a build. And what is the source code management? What is the source code that you're going to do a build? Whether it's a Docker or a Gradle or Maven, you just choose like the category and build it. You don't worry about the blue code written in the backend in terms of the thresholds, in terms of orchestrating different stages within the pipeline. That is what I meant as low code, no code pipelines, right? Not just for SDLC, but now if you look at the technology, right? Like there's a lot of SaaS-based applications coming into the market, right? Be it Salesforce, be it Snowflake, or be it the SAP or Informatica, and then like you have multiple technology stacks within SDLC, and you have IAC. And how are you going to bring in one governance model with one single tool? Jenkins is not going to support you on the SaaS-based applications, right? So they have to buy another tool. Someone has to write a script, and then bringing the same governance, it's going to be a challenge for anyone in the organization. So pick one low-code, no-code platform which can address all the DevOps needs across the different landscape, different technologies. I think that will help because you don't have to learn the tools behind the DevOps because you are not in the business of DevOps, right? The application teams are focused on building the product that is built by each company. And if they start focusing on the DevOps, they lose focus on building their actual product. So pick and choose the right platform where you get the low code, no code platform, drag and drop. Don't worry about the DevOps, but focus on the product. That's what we are calling a low code, no code pipe. Is that Chris?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Yeah. Next slide. Okay. So the final piece is the contextualized and unified insights. spoke about the toolchain automation, which is the very first step of your DevOps journey. And then once you have the toolchain, how are you going to bring in the toolchain within the pipeline, integrating without writing any glue code or any custom scripts? The third one is the unified insights. You have the tools, you have the pipelines. Now, how are you going to use those logs? So this is what I have experienced in my past, right? I have built like private cloud and DevOps practices for financial industries. So we used to have like around 1.5 million commits a year and have around 20,000, 25,000 releases on an average per year into production in a month, in a month. And on an average, like we used to have 60,000 goes into dev and QA environment. And we'll have one enterprise tool that is sitting in a centralized location where every application will be using those tools. But if something has to go wrong, what's going to happen is like each and every developer has to reach out to the DevOps team and they have to go log into each of these tools they have in the system and try to correlate the logs, which particular commit ID that came in and what is the corresponding the security analysis, what is the corresponding the testing automation that ran, what is the corresponding container scan that ran, and then taking that logs, that itself, it's going to take 6 hours and 7 hours of time because of the quantity they're dealing with it. So if you have the pipeline, as I said, like the no-code platform, which can basically have some sort of relationship, okay, you trigger the pipeline, the commit ID is going to be a common denominator using the commit ID. And if someone gets the logs, and in terms of what happened within the build and how long it took, who triggered it, and what was the logs as part of the React build or the SaaS-based application build. And on top of it, like you get the security analysis results. If everything is contextualized in one single console where they can get it without disturbing or without reaching out to another person or without creating an incident, that itself is going to be a huge win because they are getting the feedback instantly without depending on anybody. Also, if they need any help, for instance, we are seeing a security vulnerability and the threshold is not met, with even before the security team reaching out to the development team, the developers can themselves reach out to security team and ask for their guidance, and they can quickly get an exception or they can quickly see like how they can fix the issues, because like having contextualized logs on top of it, you have unified insights to understand where the pattern is coming from and where are the bottlenecks. That's going to be critical. I don't know how many have they contextualized logs and unified insights. Based on some of the webinars and some conference I recently attended, a lot of people, they were talking about, I have a sophisticated DevOps pipeline in terms of using Jenkins, some of the runners that I have. But when we talked about how are you measuring your MTTR, they don't have the idea about it. They think that like MTTR can be reduced having a good solid DevOps pipeline. It's not really true, because having the pipeline is good, but like identifying the logs, the issues, identification of the issues, very critical piece of the MTTR. If you don't have that, your MTTR is always going to go up. And most of the people using the open source tool, they always forget this aspect of it. And they try to give a report, like pulling from different tools on a monthly basis to the leadership. And the leadership doesn't get the full context of the issue, right? So if a team is lagging on a security issue for a particular technology, but the report is going to the leadership saying that there is a security issue across the organization, and the executive team invest on a tool which is not really solving the problem of that particular technology, what's going to happen is that issue is going to continue to be there in the production, and they're not going to go anywhere. So having a contextualized logs, it's really critical to understand where exactly the problem is. Next slide, Joey. Right. So there are some critical KPIs we think that needs to be measured in terms of deployment frequency, right? Like these are with respect to DORA, change failure rate. What is the mean time to recovery, the cycle time and lead time? Yes, these are like critical KPIs that DORA is suggesting that like we should have. But I think like more than this, like we also need to start focusing on the security and quality KPIs as well, right? In terms of like how are you performing in terms of the change failure rate? Is your change failure rate is passing because of the security? Is it passing because of the quality of the code or the quality of the application? And is your mean time to recover is going high because of the security? So we need to have those kind of slice and diced information that readily available for the developers and also for the executives to make the right decision. And also that will help them like in terms of improving the cycle time and also lead time for any tickets or any stories that are generated by the business team. So I don't know how many of you here are measuring these KPIs at this point of time. And if you are measuring, I would like to understand how are you basically like slicing these KPIs in terms of different buckets with respect to security and quality? Do you have any suggestions or have you done this before? I would like to hear from you to see what you guys are doing.
So Vishu, it's John. Sorry, I'm late. I had to teach today. When you're saying KPIs, the context here, is this what you're actually using to measure with the engineers and testers and the resources to their performance? Or is this the flow? Is this the work is this on the work itself going through the pipeline or the software factory?
This is the work itself going into the software factory. But if you have the contextualized and correlated logs, what you can do is you can also go into the developer KPIs as well, right? So for instance, there is a story I create from the product business team, and how long it takes for me for that particular story to go into production is my lead time. And how frequently that I'm deploying the code to production. Right? And then what is the change failure rate? Where is it failing? Is it failing because of the security, or is it failing because of the quality? If it is failing because of the security, I should have intelligence within this KPI to measure who has created the security. Is this security is introduced by the developer, or is it coming from as part of the open source library that I'm using it? Or is it something that like it's already in the system that's not been like looked into it?
Yeah.
And then it's easy for me to go fix it. And then that will also help me on the meantime to recover as well, because some of the security can take 2 hours or 2 days or even 20 days to fix.
Okay, now I got you. Where I was going to go with this was, are you familiar with the flow framework and the flow metrics that Irfan has been talking about lately?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing that we were doing with the DASA leader from the DASA leader certification course that we're rolling out, I would say the nuance there or the detail there that was very valuable that I think a lot of people miss and that we discussed in there was if taking what you're talking about here, the pipeline or the pipeline metrics, and then now layering that on top. So using the flow metrics, that flow framework or what they're called the flow metrics, that now you can tie into the OKRs or the people's KPIs, the resource KPIs. And now you can actually drive or you can better influence the desired behaviors and desired outcomes through that. And that was, to me, that was a critical link in past programs or past efforts that I've had is how do you really cleanly pull that together? And the key there was the flow metrics now much easier to take human KPIs and associate it to our pipeline KPIs. It's that translating that language and it gets it to that we're actually talking about value now. It's getting us to the deliver of value through that pipeline. So anyways, I don't want to go down a tangent, but to respond to your question.
Well, that's a good one actually, right? That's where like you need to go towards actually. And if you're just focusing on the pipeline KPIs, and it's going to be very difficult to identify the patterns where the problems are coming from. You need to understand the flow metrics.
Yeah. Flow metrics to me, that's a fascinating area. Now it's going to take us like the work you're doing. Let's combine those with what you're doing. And this is going to be awesome. Yep.
Any other thoughts, questions? Okay, Jane. Okay. The security and quality KPIs, then like what real-time KPIs for any application team, right? Like dev, security, quality, operations management, align everyone on priorities, right? What are the security priorities, the thresholds that's been placed on the pipeline? What are the operations thresholds? What are the quality thresholds? You need to make sure that like these thresholds are met, and that you also need to put in the gates with respect to, okay, if my KPIs thresholds are breached, we need to send a notification to the respective stakeholders along with the dev team so they understand where they need to focus on as part of the next release, right? That is part of the feedback that we are talking about. The next one is the contextualized log. As I said, like MTTA, one is mean time to acknowledge identification of the issue, MTTR and mean time between failures. These KPIs are really critical when it comes to the pipeline. And using that, you will be able to measure where you are exactly in terms of that application that is going into production, like how soon like you can recover the application if something goes wrong, and you need to have the contextualized log. And then the last one is the one-click audit reports. So if you have a low code, no code platform, as I talked about, that will basically help you like download the audit reports instantly. And you should also be able to compare between one release to another release to see what really happened on the different logs, right, from the different tools. So you'll be able to make a call quickly whether that you want to basically push the code to production or not. And from the threat vulnerability management, so you need to have the container scan, TerraScan, and also we advise customers to use the Sentinel policy as well when it comes to the IAC, because these are critical, especially a lot of enterprises we are seeing cloud movement now. They are hosting the tier 1 applications on the public clouds with growing vulnerabilities in the market. I think it's very imperative they make sure that like their infrastructure code is scanned, they have the compliance in place, and the SDLC pipeline has all the static code analysis, dynamic code analysis, and also the container scan with respect to managing the threat vulnerability management. The last one is the quality scorecard, where like you get the KPIs for your unit testing, functional integration testing, be it like any tool in the market, but it's advisable to have the KPIs and thresholds placed for all these KPIs, because this is going to help the team to get the feedback quickly and help the executive team to make a decision if something has to go wrong. So the business can make sure that like they're delivering the product in a much quality fashion to all the consumers. Next. Yeah, these are some sample dashboards like we would like to share. So here, if you look at it on the left now on top, you see a pipeline number 59. It has a pipeline. The project is log accumulator service, and the Sonar testing, the security has gone up. But if you look at the Ruby testing, there is no change. The code smell has been remaining at 459. But the third line on the pipeline number 58, if you look at it, the vulnerabilities have gone down. And you also see the language. So that way, like it is easy, it will be easy for you to see which technology area, which technology, which particular application having problem in which particular technology. So having this kind of slice and dice information, that's going to really help the development team and also the security team and also the business to make quick decision on the code push to production. And also you need to have the goals for your security. As in the fourth one on the bottom, if you look at it, the goal for my security, I have kept it at A, but like I am at security B, 7 vulnerabilities, and also the reliability rating of 33. And then like I have a good maintainability rating with 1.76. This goal can be changed from organization to organization, application to application, but having this information is going to be really handy. And on top of it, like if there is an actionable intelligence where you click that 7, and if it takes you to the corresponding pipeline or the technology stack, where you can identify the service owner or the pipeline owner, can go have conversation quickly and see how you can work as a team and help them fix the security issues in much faster way. Okay. I think that's the end of the first session. On the breakout session, Joey, do you want to say that?
Yeah, just looking at the number of participants, I don't know if it's useful to create 2 groups or if we just stay in one group and continue here.
I agree with you. So we can stay here and probably we can take any questions, not just to toolchain automation, but also with respect to no-code pipelines or unified insights. Happy to take any questions.
Let me quickly take a sneak peek at the next slide, see if there's the question there or not. Yeah, there is. Do you need a minute to take some water or do you just want to continue now?
Yeah, we can continue, but I would like to get answers from the team here on their favorite tools and then the choice of tools and automation importance.
Yeah, then give me a second. I will ask everybody to unmute. Awesome. I think I've sent everyone a notification asking to unmute. And then you can do your thing again. I'll quickly mute myself so I don't interfere with the audio.
Vishnu, would it help if we all went on video too, to make this part more interactive and just brainstorming answers to the question? Just a suggestion for anyone that's comfortable. I'll lead. It's hard being a speaker when everyone's off video and on mute the whole time. You've done a good job asking questions and trying to get people engaged, but it sometimes feels like you're talking to yourself. So I feel for you. Empathy, Vishnu. Thank you.
Very good. I'm just sorry I was late. I just wish I would have wanted to be here from the beginning. Right. I'm finding my notes on this. I actually have a slide from one of my classes I'm going to pull up. You know, it's actually the one I'm teaching. I'm actually teaching the class I'm teaching today. I can actually go to day 3 on Friday and pull that up. Let me go find it.
Might need to make you co-host so you can share any slides.
Okay. If you guys want, yeah, we can. It's going to be very, I don't know how detailed it's going to be for you if you want to go deeper, but at least it may trigger some conversations.
I missed the question slide. Was that up? Now I see John. Oh, here it is on the bottom. It might be my view.
Yeah, I'm working on one monitor, juggling the Zoom info screens and the slides, but I think the slide is up currently.
Yeah, I think it was just my view.
Okay. I've made John co-host. I see that most everyone has their camera on and their audio on, so I think we can start indeed with this part. Vishnu, maybe easiest if you lead, and then we'll chime in.
Okay. So what are my favorite tools? I don't take position on the favorite tools at this point of time because I basically believe in basically to choose a tool that is right for the technology rather like taking position on any tools, especially like I like Jenkins or I like Teamcity just because I know those tools. And again, like on the tools and automation, why is it important? Because the application team, they are too much focusing at this point of time on the DevOps side of it, thinking that's their part of their job, but they should start focusing on their application development and allow them to choose the right automation, low code, no code platform, which can satisfy the needs of toolchain automation, which can empower the developers and also give unified insights, and also a platform which can scale for SDLC, be it IAC or be it SaaS platform. I think that's what it is important for the development teams.
All right. So to respond to that, what I can do is stop. All right. I'm going to go and I'll share this slide. I'm going to share this out. So like you, Vishnu, yeah. So what I've found within the last month, really, after talking to folks like Irfan and ourselves in among the DASA groups, the ambassadors and influencers and folks and the leaders and stuff it's about value, right? It's translating what are we doing into value and being that product value versus cost project. And so anyway, so based on that, what I'm having to do is, and sort of realign my whole thinking to this, is what I'm showing on the screen is this right here, taking from the DevOps periodic table of tools. These are in the last 2 years, if I look at my clients in transformations, and these are global companies that are basically like one company, 70% of the world's food on a daily basis touches their equipment as they feed the population. We've been helping them with the transformation. And then this also goes down to small startups. Like I'm talking to a small startup now in the cyberspace that's coming to market with a new service and product set. And so they're at the very start. The first investors have hired their first 3 people and I'm talking with them. So that's the magnitude and vastness of industry. And so what I mean by that is across is the pipeline that they usually use 8 steps in their pipeline. And these are the common tools that I'm seeing. When it comes to the testing part, this is where it gets interesting because there's no clear winner in the testing area. SonarQube's in there a little bit, but what we're finding and what I'm seeing in the clients is we are actually taking the fields in Jira and Confluent or in Jira fields in our tickets or rallies and other tool set there. And we're entering information in some of those usable fields. And then we're passing that and integrating that and we're creating a automated testing repository. And so that in the Scrum ritual, when we go to create a story, what has to happen is the definition of done is defined. The developer says, this is how I'm going to develop this. And then the tester says, well, that's how you're going to develop it. Then this is how I'm going to test that. And then the security person says, okay, if you guys are going to develop and test it that way, then from a security perspective, this is what we have to have. And they put all that in the Jira ticket before they put any fingers to keyboard. And so then from there, that information, the integration and downstream in the integration and functional testing teams that are more towards the release side of it, or the delivery side of it, farther in the pipeline, they're actually picked up that this information's there. And they're now giving guidance back to the Scrum teams at the time when they're doing their sprint planning, saying, hey, look, this is great that you guys are doing this, but what you don't know is by the time we go to release this 2 weeks from now or a month from now or whatever that cycle is, we are actually going to be doing this. And so that information now, this transparency is actually throughout the tool set of being able to show that information cascading through the tool set is allowing us to speed up our flow and creating that value. So anyway, that to me is where I'm at with all this, trying to wrap my head around it. And so I know you're much more detailed and much more technical than I am. But anyway, to answer your question, that's how I'm seeing it be addressed right now. And like you're saying, is there's no clear cut winner here. This is just what I'm seeing, the framework that most of the companies are trying to put together and integrate together, and then come up with their own intellectual property for how they're going to beat their competition. So
And there is also another challenge to it, right? If you are sticking just to AWS, just some of the things that like what you have listed, that's going to really work. But like if you have multi-cloud support, right? Like be it your primary is running in Azure and your secondary is running in AWS, and then like you have your legacy application, then the application team or development team will really struggle when it comes to the build and deploy aspect of it, because they will have to write the independent glue scripts for each of these cloud services. So that's where like you will have to have one orchestration platform sitting on top of all these tools that you have listed here, which can basically take care of your starting from your planning to the monitor and optimize. That will basically ease out all the pains, like when it comes to the multi-cloud deployments or any tools. You don't have to worry about the tool at that point in time. You just have to focus on the governance aspect of it if you have an orchestration platform.
Thanks. I got a mechanical keyboard, so that's why I want to go on mute when I type. But no, thank you. But yeah, I'm going to stop sharing.
Is there a second question after this one? Would you like me to go to the next slide, Vishnu?
Yeah, I think you can go to the next slide. I think we covered both here. So what are the current challenges? I'll start here. And what are the best practices here? So the current challenges here is every application has different needs, and you have different challenges when it comes to be it infrastructure as a code, software development lifecycle, and then like you have IoT based mobile application pipelines, and you have SaaS based application, be it Salesforce or be it like Snowflake. And someone has to understand of each of these technology stack and write like in terms of the different tools that like all these tools natively integrate with. That's a big challenge that I see in the market today, where they spend like so much time in integrating with this, and they still like they don't achieve like what they want to in terms of the CI/CD best practices. And the best practices currently what we are following, it's basically like I myself coming from a product background, right? Like that's what we do. We basically build the orchestration platform to take care of all these needs, and we use our own platform, and we are seeing like tremendous results, like in terms of like toolchain automation or a low code, no code platform, or like be it unified insights. So that's what we are into. And that's where like I would see the industry to move towards as part of the best practice as well.
How much exposure, are you working mostly commercial, or are you doing some government work too?
So we are working with few folks on the government, and we are also like on the process of getting the FedRAMP right now.
Okay.
We started it, but we have a lot of commercial, actually, Fortune 10 to Fortune 100, Fortune 500 as well. Yeah, at the end of the session, like happy to share some of the links for the demo. Maybe we can sync up later as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's sync up later. I got a program that would on the DoD side this would be very helpful for them.
Probably Sushmita meeting. I'll coordinate with Sushmita.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who has any challenges they'd like to share?
So one thing go ahead.
Okay, the comment that I would like to share about it is one of the challenges that's normal to happen when we try to enable all the tools at the same time, try to compliance with everything. It is how we can help to the organization to start to standardize some things that will require, right? Every single tool will require to set up and to take decisions how we can handle that one. At the same time, and not necessarily that tool will be used for all the things as being involved. And when we are trying to get it metrics, KPIs or something like that, definitely we cannot get it these metrics if we cannot do the standardization to agree some kind of configuration we required to do. Doesn't matter what tool we are using. That is the biggest challenge. How can we get the high visibility for everything, taking into consideration how many tools we need to use it, how many things are used for tools.
Yep. That's the major challenge everyone is running into with the plethora of tools in the market, especially a lot of enterprise. They added tools left and center in the last 3 years, but now they are really struggling to see like how they can bring all these tools together and how they can put together an orchestration and how they can get the visibility out of it, because they need to understand like whether the investment they've made is really working or not, and also they are having the right tools. And without visibility, and it's going to be really difficult. Yeah, thank you.
I was going to hit it from a different angle on this. So in the circles that we've talked, several of us here, we talk about culture, right? Culture is the biggest reason why we're failing. And so how do you handle, or how do you approach getting the technical folks that are focused on the orchestration, all that, and then from those cultural views and cultural aspects, what interesting or what recommendations do you have there, like guidance that I could do, that I could provide folks or steer people to, that, hey, you want to think about it this way, or think of it from this perspective? Because I'm always seeing a lot of headbutting, people arguing over the tools and what is really value, how do they deliver value with the tools? And it's a mess right now.
Our co-founders and like myself, like when we started the journey, so we all thought there is a huge cultural challenges when it comes to the DevOps, right? So what we decided is like our goal was to basically do not take any position on any tools in the market with respect to any cloud, and also make sure that like we empower the developers, right? When you empower the developers, there are two sets of developers that is in the market today. One is low code developers, another one is high code developers. So you give a platform to developers with a low code versus high code, where someone can basically go into the CLI, they continue to code it, and someone can go into the UI and then like they build the pipelines with no code, low code. And at the same time, you have the governance sitting on top of it, and also empower them to choose the right tool for their application stack. You solve the problem. You basically like, you give all the freedom, but tell them that, okay, these are the things you need to make sure that it needs to be in control, but you have the freedom to choose your right tool. When you do that with low code platform, and then allow the high coders also to use the kind of a CLI version of it, and then allow them to choose the tool stack they want, and then having the pipeline with the visibility, I think that will solve a lot of the cultural challenges that we run into. Because everybody is going to be on the same page. The moment you bring everybody on the same page, there's going to be partnership, and everybody is going to help like each other and going to work hand in hand.
Yeah, that's good. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Are there questions after this one, Vishnu, or is this the last one?
I think this is the last one. If there are any add-on questions that we to take, and we can discuss about it as well.
No, I think we're also pretty good on time. Oh, perfect. Then, Kate, maybe you want to close the webinar for everyone? Kate looks a bit shocked. Sorry, Kate.
This was great. No, I learned a lot. Thank you, Vishnu, and especially incorporating security into the thought process for developers to own security, because typically when I consult with clients, they see security as a separate, not even part of CI/CD and DevOps development. So that part was eye-opening as well as the tools, and then the lack of tools in testing. I'm hiring a QA automation engineer right now, so testing is top of mind for this client. So this was our first event, and I appreciate those of you who have been along for the ride. We're going to be sharing the recording with everyone that didn't make it live, and we're going to do this second Wednesday of every month for the Americas region is the plan. So November 10th is the next event for people to register for, and working on getting that presentation put together by Sundaresh on, I think, AWS and Elastic Search, right? EWK maybe. So very exciting first event for us. Looking forward to your feedback. Please share feedback with whoever invited you to today's event. Oh, Jorge has a question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for a presentation, Vishnu. And what's the name of your co-presenter? Is the one that says DevOps Agile Skills?
Oh,
Joy.
No, that's Joy. Hi, Joy.
Joy.
For the presentation. And I think Vishnu and another guy were going to do the presentation both. The other
Kumar.
dropped.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, a recommendation.
Fine.
Take care of your quality assurance engineers, especially in automation, because they are highly demanded these days. We are struggling to hire a new QA engineers, but not manual. For manuals, there are a bunch of them, but the ones for automation are very scarce in the market, and they are asking higher salaries, and they demand better treatment and higher salaries because they know they are scarce.
Yeah.
really scarce. I don't know what you've seen, Vishnu, in your.
I'm just laughing here. Like not just QA, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. There
Yeah.
is a lack of quality assurance engineers and auto.
And they want to be software development engineers and test, right? SDET is the new term because it involves more actual coding and programming for the automation.
Oh, it's not QE, it's QE, quality engineers actually.
Yeah. Or SDET it used to be QA was the way in to development and you got promoted into software development and it was a short-lived part of your career path, different mindset. Awesome. But good. Thank you for putting this together, Vishnu. It was very informative. Thank you for everyone that joined, friends and new faces alike.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.